Although Krotos managed to escape, the Horde continued on. It was time. The troops of the Absolute Evil had driven the Alliance back to their capital. It was time. The troops of the Absolute... Once upon a time, there was a kingdom full of flowers and rainbows, where the sun shone all the time and there was loads of that goody-goody, lovey-dovey good people stuff going on. There, the alliance of abominably good people lived in unearned wealth and prosperity. But there was a path leading to a different place there. At the end of this path was a rock. There was a cave carved in this rock in which the Absolute Evil lived. It wasn't a grubby, damp cave smelling of muck and mildew, but a deep, dark dungeon, so dark that even darkness itself was afraid of it. It was home to numerous innocent monsters who enjoyed a happy, contented existence, living in complete harmony with their environment. But time and again, the sickening, sweet-smelling good visited this underworld in search of treasure and experience points. Many monsters found this to be the death of them, but much worse, the Absolute Evil's treasures were being stolen. One day, just as a few more heroes had finished plundering its dungeon, the Absolute Evil decided it had had enough, and decided to do something new, something quite monstrous. Go to the surface. The Alliance tried to resist, but the approaching Horde just flowed over them like an angry wave of axes, teeth, and bad breath. After numerous unrelenting battles, the Absolute Evil finally stood before the Alliance's capital, King's Ending. After countless battles, the forces of the Absolute Evil reached the Alliance capital, King's Ending. The laughable remnants of the forces of good had come here to make ready for the final battle. Evil would pay a high price indeed to storm those fortress walls, or so they thought. Suddenly, a rumble rose from deep within the earth. Stones burst asunder, revealing an ancient path into the depths. Out of the depths of Stygian darkness arises the Invincible Evil. With earth-shaking steps, the unstoppable evil began its trek towards the front. In the terribly improbable event that it may have forgotten how that works, a formidable help function has been provided. I said, with earth-shaking steps, the unstoppable, if somewhat sluggish evil began its trek towards the front. A few of the Alliance units had entrenched themselves here. A determined Absolute Evil marched towards them in order to strike them down with its mighty weapon. Absolute Evil had discovered a medal. These legendary awards ensured a creature could be made even more powerful. Only one downside: the creature could only wear one at a time. Eyes ablaze with greed, the insidious evil gazed upon the blood-drenched battlefield. Here the last defenders of good would die, and an age of evil begin. Projectiles from the Alliance's catapults darkened the sky, but the Horde's fighting skills were at their best in darkness, if they survived. forces of good never had a chance against the absolute evil. The absolute evil destroyed the defenders' camp in the east with the greatest of ease. Now, only one tiny camp offers any resistance to the absurdly evil evil. And even that won't be able to hold out for much longer. Evil destroyed the defenders' camp in the west with the greatest of ease. The defenders in front of the city had been beaten to a pulp and defeated. Now the time had come to attack King's Ending. The final battle beckoned. The city gate was firmly barricaded by the Alliance's archers, but the absolute evil would not allow itself to be held up by such a ridiculous impediment. So, go get them! Destroy them now! Oh yes. Sorry, stay in character. The absolute evil used its all-powerful magic to eliminate the the city. Using its legend, wait for it, Dere powers. The absolute evil destroyed the impediment with ease and simultaneously eliminated a whole group of defenders. True story. The road to the capital was now clear. The absolute evil did not hesitate for even 1 nanosecond. The insidious evil entered King's Ending. A small, pitiful group of defenders stood outside. Suddenly, the doors of several houses in the city opened, and with a loud roar, defenders bore down on the rather surprised evil. An ambush. The invincible evil had crushed the defenders. King's Ending had been defeated. At least, that's what it thought. Suddenly, the final heroes of the Alliance emerged from nowhere. Another ambush? Now, this was becoming very boring. But wait, this time it was different. Instead, the heroes raised their hands and started singing an incomprehensible chant. A magical ritual? This did not bode well. Well, actually, it bode the arrival of good things, great things, unless you happen to be the absolute evil. Somewhere in the depths of the dungeon, the ultimate evil awoke. It did not know what had happened, nor why it had awoken, but it longed for revenge. The last remaining heroes of the country joined forces and cast a powerful banishment spell. The absolute evil disappeared from sight with a threatening gesture, and a faint whispered, "I'll be back," could be heard coming from its lips. The absolute evil had been banished, and its essence shattered into several pieces. Its reign of terror had ended. The good people of the overworld rejoiced, and an era of peace began for the Alliance. The evil creatures were driven back into the underground, doomed to serve as cannon fodder for pleasure-seeking adventurers. Meanwhile, secreted away in the world's most inaccessible places, the last remains of the absolute evil were resting, never again to see the light of the overworld. Until today, that is. Somewhere deep under the earth, the ultimate evil awoke. And the hand of terror arose, controlled by the ultimate evil. Come on, Hand of Terror, arise, damn you! Methinks that exploring the surrounding area would be a sensible strategy. However, to do this, light would be required. Still not bright enough. An old throne room was revealed by the light. The circumstances remained a mystery. The Hand of Terror flew through the throne room, following each and every thought the ultimate evil had. After a few flying sessions, the ultimate evil was able to control the hand with ease. The time had come to call forth creatures who were completely devoted to it and would do its dirty work. Little Snots were the dregs of each and every dungeon and spent their time taking care of it. The expansion-mad evil hired one Snot on the spot. The first Little Snot appeared. It was completely ready to work in the dungeon and to crawl in the dust before the ultimate evil. Little Snots were important to the ultimate evil because they took care of many important little things, such as excavating new areas. The psionically gifted evil could sense the presence of something important that was buried to the south. It instructed its Little Snots to dig in that direction. As quick as a fart, the Little Snot made his way to the marked position and began to dig. Behold, the creatures of the overjoyed evil had apparently been much more industrious than it had thought. A great dungeon was revealed behind the wall. Everything was already in place. Doors, traps, a well-filled treasury. Oh, wait. Treasury? And where, if you please, is this treasury? Oh well. One can't expect too much of these mindless little Snots. First of all, some gold had to be dug out to make space for a treasury to be created. The Hand of Terror swiftly marked a few small gold veins so that the Little Snots could excavate them. As soon as the gold vein was selected, a Little Snot immediately set out to mine valuable gold for the greedy evil. Once most of the gold had been mined, the Hand of Terror quickly created a treasury on the spot so that the precious metal could be safely stored. The clever evil mastered this task with flying colors. From now on, Little Snots could use the treasury to store mined gold. It was then at the greedy evil's disposal whenever more rooms needed to be built or new creatures recruited. Little Snots were all well and good, but were too weak and cowardly to defend the dungeon. Since it was not able to defend itself, the ultimate evil would have to hire some orcs. But they would require food. Liquid food. Well, beer to be precise. So the next important thing to build was a brewery. And that would require some space to be created. The ultimate evil had the feeling that its servants were not really putting their backs into the work. Might a hearty slap from the Hand of Terror change that? The sadistic evil encouraged its creature to work a little faster, with a friendly but not at all gentle slap. Now an area cleared for the brewery site, and with quick finger snaps from the hand of terror, the room stood ready. Excellent. But the recently built brewery lacked a brewing copper. With a sigh of resignation, the overworked Evil set about taking care of that too. The hard-working Evil effortlessly built a brewing copper so that delicious beer could be brewed as soon as possible. One of the little snots started working on the brewing copper. The nostalgic Evil banished all thoughts of Oktoberfest and brass bands. Those would have to wait. More important tasks had to be completed first. Both beer and gold were now available in the dungeon, so it was time to hire some creatures to defend against greedy heroes or whatever else snuck around underground. At present, it was only simple orcs declaring undying loyalty to the ultimate Evil. The rest of the horde was scattered to the winds. Orcs were defensive, close combat specialists, capable of dealing with many opponents. However, they were very vulnerable to ranged attacks. Payday! An eerie gong rang through the hall. It did not bode well for the ultimate Evil's treasury stocks, for at each sounding of the gong, the creatures would collect their undeserved wages. However, there was little it could do about this, as it was chained to the throne. Thus, it had to give free rein to its servants' desires, for the time being at least. Suddenly, one of the repellent Evil's servants became very thirsty. This was typical of a troop member of the unanonymous alcoholics known as the Horde. The Dipso made his way to the nearest brewery to quench his thirst. A thirsty orc arrived at the brewery. Eager and slavering, he started demolishing the alcohol-hoarding Evil's stock of beer. One louse-infested orc crawled up from the depths and declared allegiance to the ultimate Evil. The first step towards the creation of a powerful army had been taken. The dungeon of the expansion-mad Evil grew and prospered, but unfortunately, it had reached the maximum possible population it could currently manage. Now a creature would have to be thrown into the bottomless pit before any others could be brought in. The profound Evil had had enough of dungeon sightseeing and now wanted to move to the surface to try a dish that is best served cold. Revenge. Some Alliance members were bound to be guarding the entrance to the overworld, a fine appetizer for a vengeful Evil. The creature disappeared into the pit of uselessness with a long drawn and gradually diminishing "ah." This particular act of wickedness brought a smile to the face of the ultimate evil. The nameless evil's creatures came upon a spider's nest during their search for an entrance to the overworld. It would take more than one orc to smoke that out. The abysmal evil used the Hand of Terror to grab several of the creatures that were still completely inexperienced at fighting and threw them onto the spider's nest. Meantime, the spiders dropped like flies. The strategically well-versed evil patted itself on the back, proud that it had led its troops into battle with such a bomb. And by led, I just simply mean chucking them at the enemy. The basics of a dungeon were now in place. However, the brewery was puny and didn't really have room to store beer barrels in, and the treasury was also anything but impressive in size. Quickly, the expansion-hungry evil set out to enlarge its dungeon.
The evil has awoken, but its brothers are still asleep.
Huh? What on earth was that? That's not in my script. Oh, weirdo. No matter. We'd better get back to concentrating on the dungeon. It's payday. The little snots found a healing potion in a hidden room. This was able to restore one of the ultimate evil's creatures to full health. little Snots found a healing potion in a hidden room. This was able to restore one of the ultimate evil's creatures to full health. Of late, one of the creatures had come up with a plan to create a trade union and go on strike for better working conditions. Once he remembered exactly what the ultimate evil would do to him, the idea was quickly shelved. The little Snots came across a small room containing a healing potion whilst pointlessly digging around in the underground. The ultimate evil could throw one of its wounded creatures on the potion to heal it. A huge monstrosity loomed out of the darkness on 8 legs. This dungeon's human guards had been ancient history for a long while. Now it was home to a huge spider and her brood. Would Sam and Frodo escape it and continue their journey to Mount Doom, or was this the end of the Ring-Bearer? Hang on a minute, that's not the right text. Oh yes, a huge spider, henceforth called the Spider Queen. It would be necessary to eliminate the Spider Queen before the Horde could reach the surface. The Spider Queen sent forth a wave of her children. Of course, the ultimate evil was fully aware of this danger and immediately prepared to defend itself against them. At least, that's what I think. The vile perversion, once called the Spider Queen, had nothing more with which she could fight the Horde. Later, the sensitive evil would have her innards made into a lava lamp. The way to the surface was open. Now it was time to put those vengeance plans into practice. The vile evil wanted to take this opportunity to utter a really sinister laugh. But unfortunately, its physical state made this unviable. Instead, it asked the narrator to do a bit of sinister laughter on its behalf. Oh well, here goes. Deep breath. Once the ultimate evil had escaped from the depths, still fettered to the throne, it traveled to wreak terrible vengeance on those who had done this, heavily supported by its little Snots. The first target was Paladin Robert, now King of the Alliance. He had withdrawn to the quiet surroundings of his hunting lodge. There, he would be the perfect victim. According to scouts, King Robert spent most of his time strolling around his hunting lodge garden reciting poetry. Soon his poetry would turn into mournful ballads. The vengeful evil thirsted to defeat the Alliance's king and mount his head on the wall as a trophy. Whoops, of course, I really mean that he wanted to take all of King Robert's cookies away. Better play it safe, or the age classification folks will be after me. Before that, however, the ultimate evil had to do a bit of work on the dungeon. Otherwise, it wouldn't be able to fund even a small army made up of a few orcs. The first brewery was completed. Soon beer would be flowing like a river, and an Oktoberfest atmosphere would pervade all. Would the ultimate evil put the beer baron out of business? Ugh, such a duff reference. Right now, the restricted evil was only able to call upon orcs and little snots. But there had been rumors that some goblins were hiding out in a cave somewhere close by. The exploratory evil would be sure to follow this line of inquiry. The warmongering evil had hired the first orc. As ancient wisdom says, violence is a solution, usually the only one. The strategy guidebook, Dungeons for Dummies, says, mountains don't always just consist of rocks and stone, but may also include natural as well as artificial caves and rooms. These usually the steady pounding in the rocks had given rise to overworld rumors of a new dungeon. A group of heroes set out to plunder its riches, and the ultimate evil was already looking forward to this visit. Another orc entered the service of the military-savvy evil. The horde was growing and prospering. Enemies have entered the dungeon. Defend the throne room. The ultimate evil should never forget to keep a watchful eye on its beer and gold stores. If its creatures can't help themselves whenever they need to, they will get angry. Fast. The heroes didn't know what had hit them, as several orcs bore down from nowhere and annihilated them. This group of heroes had plundered their last dungeon, but there would be more. The time to attack appeared to be right. On the surface, in the tavern of a small, miserable village, some adventurers gathered. They were acquiring Dutch courage for their visit to the dungeon by downing several beers. The dungeon had to be destroyed. Payday! A delicious rumble announced the fact that the village's last house had crashed to the ground. Ha! There would be no more heroes meeting there to seek out the dungeon of the destruction-hungry evil. The hunting lodge of King Robert lay in the north. It was there that the ultimate evil would finally get its long-awaited revenge. However, it looked pretty damn well guarded. Maybe it should first visit the cave to the west, inhabited by a clan of goblins, where the cunning evil could do a little negotiating. The goblin leader prostrated himself joyfully before the ultimate evil, and immediately dispatched 2 goblins into its dungeon with a few plans for a new room, a tinkerer's cave. This was built as quickly as possible. The Tinkerer's Cave was built. It could, however, only be used as a warehouse, as it lacked the workshop that the insidious Evil's goblins needed. Quick as a flash, Evil placed a creator mat in the Tinkerer's Cave. Payday. Enemies have entered the dungeon. The Tinkerer's Cave was still lying there completely useless. The forgetful Evil should place a creator mat in there soon so that this room can be productive. The Tinkerer's Cave was still not operational due to the lack of a creator mat. The confused Evil berated itself for taking so long and quickly set about fixing the problem. Obviously, the incompetent evil used to be construction manager at Westminster Cathedral because it still hasn't made the Tinkerer's Cave productive. Shift your arse. Construct a Creatomat, you dipstick. Enemies have entered the dungeon. It's payday. A strange odor spread through the ultimate evil's dungeon. It vowed that in the future it would eat fewer beings. A sparkling new Creatomat graced the Tinkerer's Cave of the expansion-hungry evil. A goblin would be able to work well in here, producing toolboxes. A few of these boxes would now be needed in order to invent a trap. The moody evil waited patiently. payday. The first treasury was completed. Soon Greedy Evil's little snots would fill it with gold. You know the golden rule, right? Whoever has the gold makes the rule. As cowardly as the goblins were, their creativity more than made up for this. They proudly presented the treacherous evil with their plan for a devious trap. With a silent, evil cackle, it quickly buckled down to setting the trap. Job done. The trap was finished and ready to be found by a hero. This is going to be so much fun. Just at that moment, a particularly powerful dwarf warrior appeared in the dungeon. How had he suddenly arrived at this precise time was indeed most odd, but his presence was more than welcome. He was going to be a guinea pig for the trap. Even this strong dwarf warrior didn't stand a chance against the treacherous traps and powerful monsters of the invincible evil. He bit the dust. So much for a game of dwarves. The dungeon's defenses were now clearly much improved, but the hunting lodge still remained well protected and impregnable. There was nothing that the ultimate evil could do. The task was impossible. So the evil withdrew, bent and broken, let feelings of revenge ebb away, and instead took up looking after those cute, teeny-weeny trees. What are they called again? Bonsai, yes, that's it. The end. Pretty unsatisfactory, huh? Of course, that wasn't the end. In reality, the indefatigable evil paid the Goblin Cave another little visit. The Goblin leader would hopefully spit out something useful after a few more slaps. The expansion-driven evil couldn't wait to explore the further possibilities of the Tinkerer's Cave. In particular, a hospital seemed a useful way to cure its ailing units. It set about asking for this to be researched. A few hard slaps were enough to motivate the leader of the goblins to help the ultimate evil. As it transpired, there was an old tunnel which had been previously used as an escape route. This connected the goblin cave with the vaults of the hunting lodge. The goblin leader voluntarily made a goblin assassin available to the hard-hitting evil to help infiltrate the lodge. The charitable evil had researched the hospital. This would enable its units to quickly recover from their injuries, once it had been built, that is. The cheerful evil was pleased with this support. An assassin was a decent melee fighter, but its actual strength lay in its ability to make itself invisible. This was, of course, tested out immediately. Despite the powerful invisibility skill, it was advisable for the ultimate evil to be cautious. Some opponents had such highly trained observation skills that they were actually able to see invisible units. A locked door prevented the assassin from progressing. It would have taken a long time for him to have opened it with sheer brute force using weaponry. Thankfully, he had a suitable skill with which he could deactivate doors, and more importantly, traps. A Gobobot was being forced to make miserable repairs in the lodge. A brief feeling of what it thought might be sympathy passed through the sensitive evil, but this actually turned out to be a mighty belch. Naturally, it would free the useful Gobobot anyway. elated by the assassin's attempt at rescuing it, the Gobobot joined the horde and succeeded in showing its tormentors a real hot time. Its ability to more or less ignore ranged damage and set fire to large areas would come in very handy. And so the negligent evil promptly allowed the only really vital unit to this mission to die. The goblin leader sighed and put his second best assassin at evil's disposal at the basement exit. Enemies have entered the dungeon. Payday!
Roses are red, weeds are green. If you do not say this, then I will be mean. It's good.
The hunting lodge was completely destroyed. The vengeful evil gave itself a very self-satisfied pat on the back. The time was right to concentrate on King Robert. He was in his renowned garden reciting his much less renowned love poems. The lyrically challenged evil had no time for poetry and would soon make this tangibly clear to him. The caring evil had good-naturedly built a hospital for its suffering creatures. It, however, still lacked a hospital bed. Little Snots would then bring any units there that had been injured in the dungeon. first hospital bed had been built. Wounded units could now be healed in the hospital. Little Snots would also be able to bring defeated creatures here so that they could be nursed back to health. Payday! It's payday. The dungeon of the ultimate evil was full of gelatinous cubes. Invisible gelatinous cubes. The Horde came across a stray goblin by the roadside, who apparently constituted the sad remains of one of the hunting lodge's attack units. This miserable being joined the army of the powerful evil with a grateful whimper. The king was accompanied by a pixie who was able to cast powerful healing magic. Any direct attack would be suicidal. Mercifully, the omniscient and helpful narrator was at hand. He pointed out to the impatient evil that the pixie went off from time to time in order to check that all was well, and much more importantly, eat her supper in a little camp to the south. The pixie buzzed over to eat her meal. The ultimate evil prepared an ambush. One would think the killing a fragile flying being wouldn't be rocket science. But an incredibly incompetent evil had taken far too long in doing so and had startled a few guards into action.
Roses are red, tulips are blue. You see the red blue. On the roses are red, weeds are green. If you will not say yes, then I will be it's good.
The annoying little pixie had spoken her last healing spell. The crafty-minded evil sculpted a fan from her wings. Now it was time to look for King Robert and ensure King Robert fell, and the ultimate evil had received its well-deserved revenge. But there were still many more heroes out there who deserved to bite the dust. Their time would come. The demigod Krotos, one of the sniveling cowards who had banished the ultimate evil, had just marched his alliance army out of the swamplands to fight the snake-like Nagas. The ultimate evil wanted to teach him the full futility of war by ensuring his untimely passing. Besides, the Nagas could prove to be valuable allies. King Robert was defeated, but there were more heroes whose life the ultimately vindictive evil was after. Here in the swamplands, the demigod Krotos was just leading the Alliance's troops against feral Naga clans. They had retreated here after the collapse of the Dark Army. It would seem sensible to first strike an alliance with these Nagas before the impatient evil squared up against Krotos. Some creatures had been hiding in a secret room. They joined the ultimate evil. The gold-greedy evil built the first underground treasury, thus laying the foundations for insane amounts of hoarded treasure. The first brewery was built underground. Later, orcs and goblins would get obscenely drunk there, and then meander through the dungeons, slurring their words and singing lewd songs. a strange rock formation in the east of the dungeon. Whatever could it mean? The Alliance had discovered the presence of the ultimate evil. This had nothing to do with a tip-off from a certain narrator who wanted to increase the tension. It was pure coincidence. The good people responded, as you might expect, with a direct attack on the dungeon. Some creatures had been hiding in a secret room. They joined the ultimate evil. It's payday. Your throne room is under attack. Enemies have entered the dungeon. There are countless spiders pouring out of a room that was accidentally unearthed. Disgusting. spiders have spread throughout the underground. Out there, the swamplands looked bleak and unfriendly. Not an area Charlie would surf in. It's payday. Enemies have entered the dungeon. The Exploration Keenevil sent its troops to the surface for the first time. The swamplands spread out before them. The next step was to either find the Nagas and recruit them, or be massacred by the army of the Alliance. It was a difficult decision. Some creatures had been hiding in a secret room. they joined the ultimate evil. A tinkerer's cave had been built. Soon, traps and doors in the dungeon would make any would-be hero's life more tricky. Pleased Evil's hard-working goblins had made plans for a new room, a guard room. There, creatures could patrol and keep a lookout for heroes. Immediately, the ultimate evil got down to having this room researched. There are enemies in your dungeon. A hospital had been built. From now on, wounded monsters could be cured there. The guard room was researched and ready for construction. Creatures that were thrown there by the Hand of Terror would keep watch and be especially vigilant for intruders. They were able to alert other creatures near the guard room and summon them for reinforcement as well. There are enemies in your dungeon. Payday. The creatures of a suspiciously suicidal evil made their way towards a treacherous ambush. At the last minute, however, they changed their minds. In the distance, the ultimate evil's creatures could see a massive stone building, a Naga temple, Apparently, there was an entrance to it in the north. The Horde set out in that direction. The army of the ultimate evil could view the temple from the top of the hill. And it did indeed not look... The nauseatingly good hero Krotos personally led the Alliance into battle and was forcing the snake creatures to retreat. Only his death would deliver the temple back into the hands of evil. Well, the troops of the ultimate evil stumbled upon a patrol of the Alliance that had caught some Nagas. Of course, they immediately set about wiping out the much-hated heroes. Oh, and by the way, you could of course also set those Nagas free. The last fighter in the patrol was defeated. Creatures of the Horde cheered. Oh yes, and set the Naga free as well. They were overjoyed to join the ultimate evil. The eager for new units evil sent his creatures further towards where it expected the Naga camp to be. The Nagas kept up their fight to free their unholy temple from the Alliance. If the ultimate evil was to help them win it back, then their support would be guaranteed. Since that fitted perfectly with the planned revenge on Krotos, it was the ideal solution. The approaching horde startled a few animals. Dinner. Enemies have entered the dungeon. The Horde defeated the bears with ease and stocked up on bear meat. However, as bear meat is not actually a resource in the game, this was utterly irrelevant. The throne room is under attack. Your throne room is under attack. It's payday. A small group of Alliance troops had gathered here. The presence of the Nagas ensured that the all-seeing evil could see even the cloaked youths. At last, the Horde reached the Nagas' camp. They were not able to offer the ultimate evil much help. However, they spoke of an artifact that was hidden deep down in the mountain. It would make defeating the Alliance a piece of cake. The Nagas opened a portal to the artifact using their ancient magic. The insidious evil debated briefly whether it was worth the risk. Finally, however, it decided it was only a question of its creatures' lives, and of course, the ultimate evil didn't give a toss about them. The Horde had passed through the Naga portal and found themselves in an old altar chamber, in the center of which lay a very ancient-looking object. This had to be the artifact. Some creatures appeared to be guarding it. Enemies have entered the dungeon. Once the artifact guards were eliminated, the artifact began to glow. It almost seemed to be waiting to be picked up. It looked as if the artifact would fit perfectly into the mysterious altar base that lay deep within the dungeon of the ultimate evil. Maybe it would be a good idea to place it there. The artifact was currently lifeless. It needed some magic. The next task for the expanding evil's creatures was to expose some mana crystals. This mana would be necessary to charge the artifact up. Wait a moment, it's already been done. Well, looks like someone was trying to become a teacher's pet. Nerd. But a mana crystal on its own was really of no value to the ultimate evil. It would take a crystal chamber to make this valuable asset usable. A room was quickly installed under the crystal. The crystal chamber shone with the brilliance of a freshly painted room. To exploit this effectively, the success-enabling evil was now able to recruit Nagas. At this exact moment, the clan conveniently placed some of these snake-like beings at its disposal. Apparently, it had not escaped the notice of the Alliance's magicians that something disturbing was going on in the underground. So they decided to mount powerful attacks on the dungeon. But the ultimate evil had been warned. That's what I'm doing right now, by the way, and created such a formidable defense that it would have brought tears to the eyes of any tower defense player. A cry for help from a few Nagas trapped in a very remote area reached the ultimate evil while it was defending the dungeon. Maybe they could be saved by using a spell, which was ready to be unlocked in the crystal chamber. The artifact was filled with magic. Neither did it take too long, nor did it go too fast. It was filled up exactly when the level designers intended it to be. The wave-by-wave tactics of the Alliance had so far proven unsuccessful. So, a strategic genius had decided to open up a second entrance to the underground in order to send, well, wave after wave of units into the dungeon. Enemies have entered the dungeon. Slowly, but surely, the artifact filled itself up with magic. There are enemies in your dungeon. Enemies have entered the dungeon. Play me the song of magic. Oh yes. The artifact continued to fill itself with more delicious liquid. Protect the artifact! The artifact was almost bursting with energy. It was now producing mana independently and ready to stand by the Ultimate Evil's side in the battle for the temple. It also gave the Ultimate Evil access to a few more magic spells. Now it was time to take the temple and destroy Krotos. The Ultimate Evil gathered all the troops together to attack in one devastating wave. There are enemies in your dungeon. Enemies have entered the dungeon. Some creatures had been hiding in a secret room. They joined the Ultimate Evil. Payday. There are enemies in your dungeon. There are enemies in your dungeon. Your throne room is under attack. There are enemies in your dungeon. Hopefully no one has arachnophobia. A spider nest has been discovered. The ultimate evil had learned a spell. This would enable the Nagas to be rescued. It immediately set about doing so. The spell ensured the Nagas' safe passage into the dungeon of the ultimate evil. Excellent work. Enemies have entered the dungeon. Enemies have entered the dungeon. It's payday. Enemies have entered the dungeon. Enemies have entered the dungeon. It was now time to fight Krotos. After a long pause, the unspeakable evil positioned its army and went into battle against him. There are enemies in your dungeon. There are enemies in your dungeon. The unspeakable evil's creatures approached the Alliance's camp. An impressive dam towered into the sky in the background. However, this path led to It's payday. The ultimate evil, or more precisely its creatures, destroyed the Alliance's camp with the greatest of ease. It considered having a luxury hotel for stressed dungeon managers built there. There are enemies in your dungeon. Together with its Naga allies, the army of the Ultimate Evil stormed the Naga Temple. The battle began. It wouldn't be long before Krotos was defeated. Just a few more blows and he would fall. Hey, wait, what do you think you're doing? Come back, you coward! I mean, seeing that defeat was inevitable, Krotos opted for a strategic retreat, leaving the temple in the ultimate evil's power. The gathered evilness then burst the nearby dam, and the Alliance's camp disappeared under waves of water with a very satisfactory gurgling sound. Despite the soggy end to the Alliance, the ultimate evil was livid. It had just been robbed of a delicious revenge. But, if I may be so bold, that was yet to come. I saw it in the script. Although Krotos managed to escape, the Horde continued on a glorious triumphal march. Now the time had come to set an example. A deed of particularly heinous evilness would inspire the creatures of the Horde to greater things. To this purpose, the Horde moved deep into the wealthy heartland of the Alliance. It was on the hunt for a creature whose sugar-sweet kindness and cordiality would